Hello and welcome to the Tyler Dale Podcast. Today my guest is Logan Miller. Logan is a singer, songwriter, producer, guitar player, keyboard player, drummer. Is there anything I'm missing?
We're already laughing. That's already way too much for what I actually do.
Not true. He's also very humble. That's something I'm sure you'll find out.
That's funny. Well, dude, I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Really
It's
excited.
Weird. We were just sitting here talking about like normal stuff, so it's weird to kind of transition into this. But
I know we've been sitting here for like an hour just kind of talking, planning, and partially I was thinking, oh, that could be cool for the podcast, but you know,
another time. There's more. Yeah.
So basically what I wanted to do right off the bat was jump into a little bit of your history. You're from a very musical family.
Yeah, super musical. My entire family plays. So my dad's a guitar player. My mom is an incredible singer. She also played bass. My parents had a duo. Do we look at the camera, by the way? Or are we just,
oh no,
we're doing us.
We're just doing us.
Yeah. My parents had a duo back in the day, and so my mom would play bass, my dad would play guitar, and they kind of just toured around, did a lot of Midwest stuff, but. Yeah, so I come from that.
What was the name of that group?
You know, there were a bunch. I actually don't know. Starshine, maybe, or something. But my dad, his band was called Captain Jack. And Chuck Berry's daughter, her name is Ingrid Berry, was the lead singer for that band. And so they played around a bunch of different places. I think they played like the Admiral and some different places like in St. Louis. But then like literally everyone in my family plays. So, like, going back to grandparents, great-grandparents, my great-grandfather played drums for, gosh, what's the name? The Texas Playboys. Have you ever heard of that band?
I don't think so.
They were like just like a Texas kind of like two-step band. So he played drums for them, and I still have his cymbals. And then my grandmother was like an awesome piano player. And so growing up, we would have like Christmas, Thanksgiving, we would set up and jam together for hours. And like
that is incredible.
Yeah.
And your sister sings.
Sister sings. My brother plays guitar, and he's amazing too. So kind of just grew up with it.
And your dad played in the Bob Cuban band. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
And what other bands did he play in St. Louis?
I mean, that was the big one, but he would kind of, it's honestly similar to me, like play with a bunch of different people. But he played with Cuban for probably 20 years. And Bob is just a crazy story anyway, because he got big in the late 50s, and he was super close with like Ike and Tina Turner. He had this song called The Cheater that, I don't know, sold 5 million copies or something.
That's insane.
Nuts. So, yeah, so he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for that song. And, just sort of like a St. Louis legend in some ways. But, yeah, I mean, my dad's got crazy stories. Like, so Michael McDonald is from this area, right?
St. Louis.
St. Louis. And so he played with a band called the Sheratons. And Bob Cuban was buddies with all of that band. And the Beatles, when they played Bush Stadium in 1964, the Sheratons actually opened for them. So Mike McDonald, sang. And they've got this story of the Beatles come walking off the stage. And it's so loud. Like the old story was like the PA just couldn't keep up with how loud people were screaming.
Yeah.
And so they come walking off. And my dad's buddy sees George Harrison walking off stage, and it's like his idol. I mean, this is basically like God walking down,
right.
This back hallway. And so he's thinking, I gotta say something to him. Gotta say something. He's getting closer. He doesn't know what he's gonna do. And all of a sudden, like, he's there. George Harrison is there, and all he can like muster up is, "Hey, man, y'all are pretty good." And Harrison just sort of like nods, doesn't say anything to him, just keeps walking. It's like, yeah, we're the Beatles. Yes, we are.
Rick Hayden was at that concert.
Really?
And he said that you literally could not hear anything at all.
Isn't that nuts?
Over the old Busch Stadium speakers.
Yeah.
It was only screaming.
Yeah.
Just what was that? 40,000, 50,000 people.
Yeah, just nuts.
It was probably more than that because I think they even allowed them on the field. I'm
yeah.
sure.
And the PAs back then, they didn't have like woofers. It was just like tweeters. So it's like all high end.
Totally insane.
Yeah, crazy.
What a great story though. So
Yeah.
that was your dad's friend who said that to
Yeah.
Harris.
Yeah, so that's like the world. You know, I grew up, I had this babysitter in my subdivision, this older woman named Marilyn, who was like retired, and my parents somehow became friends with her, and she became my babysitter. And so my parents were gigging really my entire life. And I just remember every Friday and Saturday night, like they would go drop me off at Marilyn's house, and she had these huge dogs, like big old, Great Danes.
Mastiffs or
Yeah,
whatever.
huge. And they'd go out and gig, and they'd come pick me up at like 2 a.m. My mom had this trench coat, and I just remember the sound. Like I'd be sleeping, and I can literally like imagine her picking me up out of this like crib in this trench coat, just smelling like booze and cigarettes, and take me home. And they, did that my entire life basically. And then they eventually got out of more of like the club gig stuff, and they started doing a like school assembly program. So they would do like drug awareness and character building through music.
Now, was this just your mom and dad, or was it the full band?
It was just my parents.
It was just the duo.
Yeah. And so, but same thing with that. Like they would go all throughout the Midwest and do these shows, and so I would travel with them as a kid. And
That is so exciting.
yeah, it was cool. My dad, I wish I had a picture to show you. My dad would wear this like tuxedo thing. He had like an outfit for the show basically. And so my mom bought me the same exact outfit.
Yeah.
So I'm this little like 5-year-old punk wearing this tuxedo, and I didn't know how to play guitar, but I had like a plastic guitar Strat that I would put on, and I would just stand off to the side with them while they did their show and would strum along with them.
That is incredible.
Yeah, and then one day there were kids on the front row at this school assembly show that were talking, and I got super mad about it. And during the show, I walk out and I yell at them and correct them and go, "You need to pay attention to this."
That is my mom and dad, and they are killing it right now.
And my parents fired me. So that was my last time on the road with them. I had to stay home after that.
Yeah,
so.
I was going to ask. So first of all, Kristen and you, I don't know if you've even talked about this before, but I would love to be a fly on the wall with you guys talking about it, because I think this was more so with Kristen. I have some memories. We would always go to my grandma and grandpa's house,
Yeah.
June and Dale.
Did they play?
My grandpa Dale was like a poet. He played something called the washboard that he
Yeah.
made himself.
Wow.
Made his own spoon, gloves.
He was the original mountain man.
Oh, he was the original. It was him.
Wow.
And then it was actually, well, now I have to tell that story about the mountain man thing since we're
Come on, bring it.
since we're talking about mountain man. So what I was going to say is when my dad was out, first of all, I know that our dads have done gigs together.
Yeah,
Or at least I know they've crossed paths
for sure.
because like Russ Bono
Yep.
is best friends with Michael McDonald.
Yep.
Went to high school together. They've done a lot of writing together.
Yep.
I'm sure that they've played with Bob Cuban before in the past. And then my dad and Russ started writing together. And so basically when Kristen was growing up, she was like 6 years old. My dad was out in the bars, but she would come and sing. She would come and
wow.
sing like Randy Travis, Digging Up Bones.
Amazing.
And she would be like, and this was at just like a ton of different local bars basically.
Yeah, right.
In the St. Louis area. But the mountain man thing.
Yes.
So before we were actually talking about, I just did this commercial where I'm trying to win this mountain man competition.
I think you got it.
Well, thank you. It took a lot of hard work of just driving to Colorado and taking, Joanna helped. She took the footage, and
Yeah.
I just brought Cedar along. But the story is a quick story is about the mountain man, and about the Bush guitar. So the Bush guitar I was playing in the video was won by my dad.
Oh, wow.
in 1993
Wow.
at a competition for Bush, and it was called the Mountain Man competition.
Wow.
So what happened was he won. It was like several weeks. He won the competition, won the Bush guitar,
Yeah.
won a week in Florida, right, with my mom, and like basically.
Is this where you came from?
Well, yeah, that's that's the actual end of the story. Is 9 months later, I pop out.
Come on now. That's what I'm talking about.
All because of this Mountain Man competition.
Totally.
So like my dad was crowned the Mountain Man, and it was funny because he had the brown hat that I wore in the video. That was his when he won the Mountain Man competition. And it was funny because they always tell a story about how in Florida they went and my dad brought his hat, but he was like, well, if I put on the hat, like maybe somebody would recognize me, right? Or he said something like that, just kind of jokingly.
I love it.
But then he put on the hat and he goes out and somebody literally goes, Mountain Man Dave Elder.
Wow.
And my mom was like, what?
That's incredible.
He like called this out. It was going to happen.
That.
So yeah, so the Bush guitar was won from my dad 27 years ago.
Wow. You know what's funny about that guitar is I've seen the video of you singing that song, whatever, and it didn't even register you were playing a Bush guitar to me. Like,
oh, it's in the other room. I'll pull it out.
It's outrageous.
There's mountains on it, and it says Bush beer.
Why did you not play that in Wildfire ever?
I don't know.
That makes no sense to me.
I don't know, honestly.
That was the brand, really.
I know. My mom just sent me this thing, and it was like, there's a Bush competition, and I immediately just said, I'm driving to Colorado, and I'm taking Dad's guitar, and I'm taking his hat,
yeah,
and I'm taking his bolo. I literally like
the whole
took
thing.
a couple things. I was like, we're gonna try and do this, this thing right.
Oh man, I hope you get it.
So thank you. So
it was well done.
There's the Mountain Man kind of story about the Bush guitar, and about my dad kind of singing out. You said that you started with your family, so around Christmas, around Thanksgiving, you guys would all play, and then you also when was the first time that you actually played out publicly with your parents?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I played out with them from a very young age and just fake strummed along
with
to this
the plastic.
Guitar. Yeah, I started playing out when I was 13 or 14, probably. But I actually didn't start playing guitar till I was 10 or 11. So it was kind of weird to grow up and all of that stuff. And then I just never picked it up. I always loved soccer. And I have an older sister who started playing guitar, and she's 10 years older than me. And she was better than me at everything, literally everything. And it made me so mad. And so I just decided one day, kind of out of spite, that I'm going to be better than you at this thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
This is Allie?
This is Allie, yeah. So, 2 years earlier, my parents had gotten me the Squire Strat, and it just sat in my room. And then they got her a guitar for Christmas a couple years later. And she started playing, getting real good at it. And I was like, all right, I'm coming for you. So I broke that thing out, and she stopped playing about a month into it. But I just got hooked. And my dad, actually, we were talking a week ago, he never really gave me a lesson. He never, I think part of it was he always felt this weird, I don't know if your dad is the same way. He didn't want this life for me.
Totally.
So he was just please, go into finance or anything other than this, And it worked for 10 years, and then I was like, nope, it's happening.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah. So, but then, I do remember it was cool growing up in that environment because I'd sit in my room for 3-4 hours a night, just playing guitar. And it was kind of the beginning of YouTube and stuff. So you would look up videos and I never got lessons, but I would just watch people and try to emulate it. And John Mayer was getting big at that time. And so he kind of became my guy. And, but I remember coming out of my bedroom once, and I was so frustrated because there was this Leonard Skinner. I think it was Simple Man by Leonard Skinner.
Okay.
Could not figure out how to play it. And I finally conceded and went to my dad and was like, "Can you show me how to play this?" And I think he was I think it's something like flipped there for him, where it was just like he's like coming to me to learn something. And so,
and what a beautiful relationship that is too, to like to be able to have somebody who played guitar and who's done all that, who's done all the dirty work and has done all the gigs, is like, what a cool relationship that is, to finally have like your son.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, obviously I don't have any kids, but I can't imagine how cool that is.
I know.
For your little kid to come up to you and be like, this is something that I love so much, and now my son loves it so much, and that's such a cool experience.
No, it was, I mean, it's been cool. And like this year, actually, this past Christmas, my dad, as long as I've known him, has wanted a Strat.
I love this story.
Yeah, and he's never, I think our dads are very similar. Like my parents have never had a ton of money. We've always had like exactly what we've needed type thing.
Yeah.
And, we go to the lake for a couple days a year, and that's vacation, and it's amazing, and everyone looks forward to it. And it's like, I couldn't be more thankful for my upbringing, but it's not like we have like trust funds and stuff. It's just like, no, we play music and we laugh and tell stories, and it's great. So my dad has always wanted a Strat, and he's just never bought one for himself because that's never been how he wanted to spend his money, and he always wanted to take care of us and whatever. And so I finally got to the place this year where I was like, it's happening. Like, I'm doing it. And so we have a buddy who builds guitars, and I called him up. And
Schwindemeyer, right?
Schwindeman. Brian. Yeah.
Brian Schwindeman.
Yes. And he was like, I want to do this, And so we were able to, he had a guitar that was like almost done basically. We were able to put it together, and I gave it to my dad for Christmas this year, and it was amazing. But to have that, I guess I tell that story to say, like, to have music as that connection.
Absolutely.
It's just so cool.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favorite things to do. Literally one of my favorite things to do is to, whenever we get done with the song, not sure if you know this, but literally Logan and I have been writing together. He's been producing all of my music that has been coming out this year.
Yeah.
Colorado Kiss,
yes,
Another Taste, Hose Off, Playlist. Those are the ones that are out so far. We're working on a whole album, CD release.
More to come.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about before we even got started. But what was I just about to tell you? I was about to tell you a story you reminded me of, and then my mind totally went sideways.
Yeah, what were you gonna say?
It was about our dads. It was about, so my thing is, it literally, as soon as we get done with something, I go and I send it to him, hey Dad, come on and let's listen to this. My dad doesn't play guitar. I mean, like, he's kind of strummed along. He has an Alvarez.
Yeah.
He has an incredible bass that you've played that I got fixed up. But he's an incredible singer. He might be singing on a track later on this year.
If we can get him.
If we can get him, the mountain man is tough. He's busy this time of year. But yeah, so I love that, having that relationship of being able to go, hey, check out this.
Yeah, it's the best.
And then knowing that, like, as soon as something comes out, it's on you. Like, he's literally just listening to it all day. Like, my mom will be like, Colorado Kiss came out today, and Dad just sat in the living room with headphones on and listened to it 100 times.
Wow.
It's
amazing,
it's like,
though.
And the simple fact that he's come out, my mom and dad both have always come to all of our gigs.
Like every gig.
Every single gig.
It's crazy.
I mean, the same with your parents. Your parents come out a lot.
Yeah. You couldn't pay me to come to probably more than like 5 of our gigs.
I know. Totally. I don't know how they did it or continue to do it. I'm like,
amazing.
Aren't you sick of any of this yet?
You've heard the same joke.
The same song, the same ending.
Same whack solo.
Whatever. Yeah, no, but they're just, it's so exciting to live, like you said, with a family who is super into it. You said that your guitar was not the first instrument. What was the first instrument that you really started on?
Well, no, I mean, it was. It just like I got a guitar, and then I didn't play it for long. So it just kind of sat collecting dust. And then I kind of officially got into it. But I think I started playing trombone like right around the same time.
Can you play trombone on the next track?
I cannot. It's been 15 years, I think.
Well, you need to start getting those chops back.
I know. Well, funny enough, so you know how I've got big lips, you know? You're nodding.
I don't think I've noticed that before.
They're big. I've got big lips. And so when you enter 6th grade and you're going to like play in the band, you can go around and you try all the instruments, you know? And so I really wanted to play trumpet. I thought I was made to be a trumpet player. And I go try the trumpet, and the guy was like trying to be so kind, but he eventually, what he was trying to communicate was like, your lips are like way too big for this instrument. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So he suggested trombone's basically the same thing. It'll just accommodate, you know, your face. So yeah, so I started playing trombone, and then I did that through middle school. And then when I got to high school, I auditioned for jazz band, and they really needed trombone players, but I hated it. Like, I wanted to be done with it, and I really wanted to play guitar. And I remember the jazz band teacher telling me, you know, if you audition on trombone, you're going to make it. So I just want to let you know, if you audition on guitar, we got a lot of guitar players. They're really good, and like, you know, we probably just don't have room for you, you know. And I go, that's okay. Like, I'll try. And I auditioned and got it.
That's so awesome.
I know, and I'm very proud of that, because it was in that moment, like, it's so easy for people to discount you, you know. And this guy had never heard me play, and dude, I worked like really hard at it.
Yeah, and to have the confidence too to be able to, especially in high school where you're probably a freshman.
Freshman in high school.
What are you, 13,
terrified.
14 years old.
Voice cracking. I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a go. I think I
think I can do this.
I can do it. Yeah, I know I can.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I did it, and then he left, and like a new teacher came in, and we're still. His name's Nathan Griffin. We're still like great friends, and he was just such a supportive dude, and so I, you know, started auditioning for district bands and made that, and then that kind of led into doing state, and I auditioned my junior year for state, and dude, funny enough story. So the guy on Joanna's record,
Horace Bray,
Best of Me. So my junior year, I go to state, drive to Columbia, Missouri to audition, and I'm sitting outside the audition room, and I hear this guy just shredding inside, and I'm like, oh my word,
dude. Nobody ever sees the behind the, you know, like behind the wall as you're just sitting there listening to this kid.
I'm like in a suit, like, why am I here? Like, I have to go home. So I go in an audition. It's terrible. I don't get it. Horace was the guy. So he made state. He was a year older than me. And so he's just an incredible player. Then he went to North Texas, and like, it was just amazing. But after that happened, honestly, it was so like humbling, because from where I came from, my school, even our like district band and stuff, I mean, I was like way better than everyone else, and it wasn't even close. And then you start hearing about these kids from like Webster and Kirkwood and Lindbergh, and that have like legit programs, you know, and they were way better. So I kind of like came home from that year really humbled, and I talked to my dad about it. And my dad was like humble enough to be like, I don't think I can get you there. You know, like, I don't play that type of music, whatever. So he got me lessons with this guy named Tom Byrne, who is just an incredible,
fantastic St. Louis guitar player.
Yeah, just nuts guitar player. And I remember at the time, like, again, my parents never made a ton of money. And so it was like, you know, $60 or something a week for an hour to like go have lessons with this guy. And he lived super far away. He lived like downtown, and we lived way out in St. Charles. And so they would drive me down to Tom's house every week, you know, and like they would just go kill an hour at Starbucks. And I really worked it that year, and then I made state the next year, and it was,
that is incredible.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. It was a fun moment. So
junior year, Horace Bray wins. Senior year, you win. When did you start playing all your other instruments?
Those I just like kind of picked up randomly. So I got into recording when I was in high school, And my dad, we had like a little kind of like demo studio in our basement because my parents would make records down there and stuff. And so he started letting me go and try things out. And so, I got a drum set from somewhere that's like still in my parents' basement. And again, it's like, dude, they would let me play drums in the house for like 4 hours a night. Like I would just work really hard at it. And they would just be upstairs, tiny house. I'm like this terrible punk kid playing awful sounding drums. It's like, it's just a nightmare. And they just like would let me do it. And so, so I started doing that. And then, we had just a ton of instruments around the house growing up. So like we had basses and we had keyboards and we had all this stuff. And so you just kind of like noodle around long enough and, you develop some competencies and different things. And so I did that. And then when I went to college, I was a jazz performance major and had to take piano to pass, that. And so got better at keys around that time. And you just sort of like pick things up. But I think part of it, I got really lucky with loving John Mayer because I loved him and he loved great music. And so because of that, I started listening to John Mayer Trio, and then I found out about Steve Jordan and Pino Palladino and, just all these great players that John surrounds himself with. And so then, I go on these like deep dives of like, okay, well, who's Steve Jordan? Wow, that sounds amazing. Okay. Oh, he produced this Robert Cray record. Oh, incredible. Okay. He did this, he did that. And so I felt like because of my connection to John, it was like, I almost learned how to play drums from like the best.
Yeah.
I didn't have to like journey through finding it. It's just like that was the first guy I got into was Steve Jordan. So
what a great guy to get into.
Right. I mean, it's just like I feel very, very lucky in that way.
Seriously. And then Pino Palladino, same thing with the bass.
Yeah.
So in high school is really when you were working on your recording studio. That's kind of whenever you started kind of playing everything, the drums.
Yeah.
Because Logan acts like he's like, oh yeah, I can't really do that. But you went on a jazz tour with the drums.
I did, yeah.
Let's chat a little bit about this experience.
Yeah. It was such a bizarre thing, man. It was like my senior year, so I'm graduating college. And my professor was this guy named Gary Motley, who's just a monster piano player. He played with the Lincoln Jazz Orchestra. Yeah. So, I mean, he's buddies with, like, the Marsalis brothers. I mean, it's just, like, nuts connection. And so he comes to me and he says, hey, I'm doing this 2-week jazz tour in Colombia, South America. I'm like, oh, amazing. He goes, yeah, dude, I would love for you to come. It's all paid for. Like, we're going to teach during the day at some colleges, and then we'll play these gigs at night. And I said, oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm totally in. He goes, one thing, would you be down to play drums? I'm like a guitar performance major, So this is like 9 months before the trip happens. He asked me. And I was like, I guess so. Yeah, I'm totally down. So I had 9 months, and dude, I just like got in the shed and worked really hard. And my drum instructor was a guy named Justin Chesarek, who is still a good buddy, and he really helped me. And we were doing kind of like double lessons a week, and just was like grinding to get good enough. What was interesting though was I had a bunch of buddies in our jazz program there who were like drum majors. Like we're the same age, like we're all graduating, and they didn't get asked. And like they're from just a purely like technical standpoint, they were way better than I was,
Yeah.
And so I've thought about that a lot. Like, what was it?
The hang.
Yeah.
The hang, right? That must be. It seems like to be one of the most important things. Literally in all, probably in everything, but especially music. It's like the hang. If you get along, if you vibe, if you enjoy being around, the other people.
What's like the gig is 1 hour or 2 hours a night, but you're hanging out for 14 other hours, during the day. So like it is huge. But then I think too, there's something like I do think I brought something to the equation musically that was different, where because I think I played all these different things and I knew what good music was supposed to sound like. I think there was like some type of connection. I mean, that's so much of jazz music is the connection piece.
Totally.
And so, yeah, like I couldn't play these like super fast like paradiddles, and technically I didn't have the thing, but like I had the vibe and I had the feel to it, and we were able to create really beautiful music that way. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. That's something that like Christian McBride does. I know as a band leader. If you don't know Christian McBride, he's an unbelievable bass player and musician and writer, and he does everything as well. But he always talks about always having one person on the bandstand that isn't maybe to like the level of competency on their instrument.
Yeah.
You know, like, or maybe somebody that's like really developing, trying to get some stuff out, but is also going for it too.
Yeah.
You know, so that made me think of that. Like, you know, it's not your first instrument.
Yeah.
But you're going for it, or you know what it's supposed to sound like. So maybe, you know, like that kind of energy.
Totally.
Or even we were talking about this before the show, honestly, was like whenever you get people like Daniel Tashian, you get people like Ian Fitchick.
Yeah.
Who they just play everything.
Yeah.
And it's because of the organic, natural thing that they bring to it, you know, with the if it's playing drums or if it's playing bass or guitar, it's like
that's the magic sometimes.
It seems to be the magic. It's like I can do this one thing, you know, like this one thing here would sound really good.
Right.
You know, or like the whole idea too, which is if you follow anything with Steve Jordan and his philosophy is less is more.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that he was always talking about, you know, and so I'm sure with those same kind of things with the producing aspect, I'm sure you also kind of think of as like, well, it doesn't need to be the most chops,
right?
You know, like I don't need necessarily Jaco Pastorius on this song, with like you know, like
no, I think you know sometimes I think when people are too good at music, it's almost like can get in the way of things, you know. And I don't know. I don't want to take that too far. I really value like musical competency. I value people that are proficient at what they do. But I do think there's times that as musicians, like we kind of get off on things that the normal listener like just does not care about.
100%.
And, you know, my wife is actually really helpful in this area for me because I'll show her a song that I'm producing or that I'm working on, and I'm like freaking out, you know, because technically it's like, isn't that amazing? And it's like, you know, the flat seven over the whatever. And she's like, yeah, it didn't do it for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's such a great thing to have, is that balance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know?
It's so good. And it's, you know, so then it just makes you realize, okay, well, this is going to be amazing for 3% of the people that listen to this. And sometimes
1%, probably
3%.
3% is pretty
a little high. Yeah. But sometimes that's worth it, right? Like sometimes, yeah, okay, I'm going to do that one thing, you know, and it'll be great. But a lot of times sometimes, you know, it's worth like, okay, so is that just for me? Or is that like literally because I think this is making the song better?
Right.
And part of that,
beautiful,
I think too, is I don't play a ton of jazz anymore. Like I'll probably play 2 or 3 gigs a year that are kind of like standards and just playing jazz music. And I love those gigs, and they're very challenging for me, and so I appreciate it. But a lot of what I produce is like, for you know, we're doing like country stuff. I produce a lot of like pop stuff and more kind of mainstream consumption, you know? And so I want to find ways to integrate some of that stuff and make it interesting, compelling, but also something that people want to listen to, you know?
People, yeah. You want people to listen to your music.
Yeah.
That's super important. You don't want to just kind of fall on, you know, deaf ears. I mean, you want to make something that's going to make somebody feel some type of way, right? Or like, you know, those emotions. It's so fun for me, even like as I release stuff, you know, you really never know what song, you know, is going to hit somebody a certain way. It's It's like,
It's probably not the one that did for you. Like,
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I've had people be like, wow, I listened to Playlist and I was like crying in the car or whatever. I was like, whoa, I had no idea that was going to have that kind of thing, you know? But it's so cool that we can affect, as musicians, we can affect,
100%.
how people live their daily lives. And
yeah, and like for us, it's, one of my favorite moments on the singles we've released thus far has been like the solo on Another Taste, right? It's incredible.
Totally.
And I think anyone that's into music listens to that and they're like, wow, that's awesome. Like, I really love that. But for most normal people, it's like, I'm kind of here for the lyric and the melody and like the chorus,
good
and
feel, something singable.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of production is finding ways to kind of exist between those worlds. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to make stuff that's accessible to people. I also don't think it's bad to challenge people a little bit and give them something a little bit more to like aspire to when they're listening.
Completely.
And so that's what I hope, at least, that when I come on to like produce something, we can kind of make concessions in both directions.
Completely. Yeah. Just like, okay, how can we keep this percentage of cool? How can we keep this percentage of lyric thing, or music cool? Like, there's so many different, ways to create a song.
Yeah,
which
100%.
makes it so much fun. Well, so we don't have too much time left for today, which is so funny. It seems like we're just getting into this.
I know. I feel like we literally just got into stuff.
I'm so excited to have you back on.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Because we have to talk about Kingly. One of the number one things I wanted to bring up, honestly, is I wanted to talk about, and we could talk about it a little bit, is like maybe how you met John.
Yeah.
John Strandell.
Yeah.
Is like Logan's partner in Kingly. They started Kingly together. Maybe you can briefly talk, just kind of.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I mean, John, which you're gonna have him on, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So John's amazing. His story is crazy too. But his dad was like a session drummer, and I mean, I'll let him tell the whole thing. But he kind of moved around a bunch growing up, and so his family somehow ended up in St. Louis. And this is in high school, I think, and or maybe I was in college, but I was back in St. Louis, and I was working with a buddy who had a studio, and he was recording some stuff for me, and he told me, hey, I've got this guy who's your age that you need to meet. He's great at drums, and I'll have him come out and play on your record. I thought, oh, that's great. So we're there recording. He's supposed to be there at like 2 o'clock. It's like 2:15, 2:30, 2:45, 3 o'clock. He's still not there. So he just completely ghosts us and does not show up, doesn't even say sorry. Like, it's just that's just it. And so I'm like, well, forget that. Like, I'm completely over this dude.
Right.
Like, haven't even met him yet. I'm just like, no, it's over. So then I go away to Atlanta for college and, like, kind of do all that stuff. And then, kind of long story, I end up moving back to St. Louis. And this guy, John Strandell, like, reaches out and wants to meet. And I'm like, no, this is the guy that, like, stood me up 4 years ago. I'm not going to do it. But we end up meeting, and John's, just the sweetest dude. And he was like, dude, I'm so sorry about that. So, yeah, we start meeting, and it was one of those things where I think in St. Louis there's a certain kind of, like, ceiling to the music industry almost. There's just, like, a certain perspective on what a life in music is going to look like.
Totally.
You're going to kind of, like, do some cool things, then you're going to settle into your, like, Friday, Saturday gig circuit, and that'll just kind of be it, and 2 times a year you'll get asked to do a record, and it'll be great, So, like, that's just it. And John, having lived in Nashville and LA, and me having done some time in Atlanta and just being in these kind of, like, bigger areas, we kind of had, like, a similar vibe, and just it clicked. And so we had always wanted to do something together, and John eventually came to me and was like, hey, I've got this idea. I want to do this thing, and I really want to do it with you and create a band. And so we just started. We started writing songs.
What year was this?
This was probably like 2016.
Okay.
Something like that. 2015 maybe. So we've been doing it like 5 years. And, no money. Like, we both sucked at production. we were good musicians, good players, and I think good writers, but it was just like we were just not great. And so we started doing it, and our first song was the song called Running, which is like such a weird song to listen to now. But we really loved it, and recorded it. Then we did this whole EP, and for whatever reason, it just like it would kind of, there were like peaks and valleys where we'd get more interest in things, and we would get a bunch of gigs, and so we would do like 6 gigs over a couple weeks, and that would be amazing. And then it would fall off, and we'd like not do anything with it for months, and then it would come back. And so that was always like the journey. And through that time, John and I have both like John started producing records, I started producing records, and just doing kind of like different things. And I think through that we realized like how much we love each other and how much we love this. And so we kind of just like doubled back down on the Kingly thing. But the dream got bigger, and so now Kingly, we're still a band, we still do events, and we put out singles and stuff, but now we're like an actual full service label, which is cool,
dude. So exciting.
Yeah, dude, it's weird. So we signed our first artist like a month ago, 2 months ago maybe, and John and I have built all these relationships over the past 5 years. Like one story I'll tell you in particular is we had a song that we thought would do really well on radio. Like, we're just like, oh, this needs to be on the radio. It sounds like it'd be great. Yeah. And so it's midnight one day, and I'm at my parents' house, and I'm just like scouring the internet trying to find a radio promoter, like just a contact for one. And so I find like 4 people. I send them all emails at midnight. None of them respond except this one guy. His name's Josh Lorich. And he emails me back 5 minutes later. It's like 12:05. He's like, hey, Logan, great to hear from you, man. Yeah, let's set up a phone call. Would love to meet you. So we start this relationship with this guy. I didn't know anything about him. And it turns out, like, this guy is the radio promoter for, this won't mean anything if you're not in, like, Christian music, but, like, Hillsong and Dude. Bethel and Lauren Daigle and For King Country. It's like every big artist, they use Josh. And he's kind of as good as it gets in the radio promotion game. And this guy, I didn't know that, and he returns my email. And we start a relationship, and, like, he was coming through one of the clients he works for was playing at Scott Trade Center. And, we were able to, like, get breakfast with him and just meet and say what's up. And so John and I send Josh a song that we think this would be great for radio. And he's like, no, this is terrible. It's not going to do well. He just shot us straight. Dude, this happened like 2 or 3 times. Dude. We'd like get on calls, send him stuff. And he just, each time he's like, nope, not going to do it, not going to do it. And he would even tell us, I don't want to take your money for this because I know it's not going to work, And so then we signed this new artist, and Josh, through a random kind of string of events, got the song sent to him. And he, like we reach out and we're like, hey, dude, we heard you had gotten the song. And he's like, dude, I want to take it. This is it. Like, this is going to do it, And so it's just crazy to think 5 years ago, I emailed this guy in the middle of the night. He responds. We start this relationship. Dude. And he's been really honest, like brutally honest. Made us really sad before.
but that's amazing. That's what you need, especially in this industry, is somebody who's going to speak the truth, really in all areas of life.
100%.
Truth. And so having somebody like that to bounce ideas off of is amazing.
Because this time when he says, no, let's go. I want to take it, and I think we got something here, you believe it. Because for 5 years, this guy's been saying, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time on this, And so that's exactly what happened. But, so it goes to radio at the end of August. And, John and I just had a phone call this morning about a major label that wants to take on they want to partner with us and basically take on some of that distribution and admin and stuff. And so it's just like, this is not a overnight story. For us, it's been 5 years of grinding, working really hard, trying to scrap together money to like do things. And, it's just, I don't know, man, I'm proud. Like, I really am. And if you know me very well, but like that's hard for me to say because I don't do that very often. But I'm really proud of what John and
you should be. So. You should be, man. I mean, just wait till if you are not hip to anything that Kingly, John Strandell, Logan Miller, like if you're not hip to anything they're doing, you need to get hip now, and I'm sure it's gonna continue to grow. And this is the perfect place to stop today.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I want to continue and I want to keep talking about.
And I want to ask you questions
about
on
Kingly. Yeah, maybe next time you can ask me some stuff. But I'm so interested to find out more about Kingly, to find out more about the next chapters of what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
Some of the other artists you're going to have. But I think it made me think of is like, first of all, number one is the ask. It all comes down, and this is something that I've talked about before. When it comes to Sean Hurley, when it comes to Aaron Sterling, it's literally the ask, and it sounds like what you're saying is now is like, this is a shot in the dark.
Yeah,
it's 12 a.m.
Yeah,
somebody might say something. I might not hear anything back at all.
Right.
I don't know what this is going to do for me. 5 years, and then 5 years, like not only do you have an incredible relationship with this person, but now they're also helping you continue to move on with other artists, with other songs that you've created.
Yeah.
And like you've had that relationship. So like the ask and the grind.
Yeah.
It's a grind. Like you were saying before. Yeah. Like you like saying, it's so funny for me to hear you say that you weren't good at production or any of that stuff. Because like from my, 5 years later, see what I hear is like, it's pro. It's like, dude, I'll just have Logan on this, and he can literally play all these instruments, and it'll sound amazing, And so it's like so interesting to hear, somebody who's coming from nothing and saying, this sucked in the past.
Yeah.
But now, after the 5 years of just grinding and like writing songs and like practicing that muscle and learning Logic. I mean, there's so many different things, different instruments, different artists, different personalities, and so I'm really excited to dive into more of that next time you come on the show.
I just want to say, if anyone has made it this far, which I would be shocked if anyone has, but I do think, and you do this really well, and I just want to encourage anyone that's like listening that's, feeling discouraged, but I do the grinding aspect is so big. Like it's just so big. And for John and I mean, it's been years of making trips to Nashville. It's been years of, doing things that you don't necessarily want to do because you actually think it's valuable. For both John and I, we work for a church in St. Louis, and so we have to be back for Sunday mornings.
Right.
And so that would mean for us, we're off Friday, Saturday. So like Thursday night, we hop in the car, we drive to Nashville. We're meeting people and, trying to network in coffee shops and doing whatever we can down there. And then you're writing, you're producing records, and you drive home Saturday night and you get there. Even doing the Wildfire stuff, it's like the number of times that I believe in you and believe just in the people that are in that circle.
Right.
And it's like, okay, yeah, so we're going to play in Memphis till 1 a.m. on a Saturday night. I'm going to hop in the car
and drive
5
hours
home, like roll in at 6, take a shower, get to rehearsal by 7, like do the thing. It's like, if you're not willing to do that, this is just not the world for you because it just requires that type of thing.
That kind of commitment.
Yeah. Which I hope that's more encouraging than discouraging. But
totally. I think it's extremely encouraging.
Yeah.
So thank you for leading with that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have you back on. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Logan.
This has been great, man.
And,
appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, if you aren't following Logan Miller, go do it immediately. If you're somebody who's an artist who's looking for somebody to produce your music, if you're looking for somebody to play drums, guitar, keyboard, songwrite, literally everything. I don't think there's something he doesn't do. You need to call Logan. Seriously, I can't speak, just enough about you. I love everything you're doing, and I'm so excited to be a part of that journey and to watch everything unfold for you. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.